What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network as well as on Peacock. And today we're talking the March 27, 2021 edition of Talking Smack, which was another great episode. And honestly, maybe even better than usual. That's how good this episode was. And I thought all three guests were great. And Paul Heyman specifically continues to be the MVP of this show. And Kayla is awesome, don't get me wrong. I've enjoyed... What's the new guy's name? Patrick something Patrick on Raw Talk. He's replacing Charlie Caruso, who's reportedly gone from WWE now. But Paul Heyman is the best at this talk show stuff. And I wasn't sold when he first started doing it, because I thought the focus would be on anyone but Paul Heyman. But so far, he has been a revelation on this show. So before we even get any of the guests, before they get to any of the guests, Paul Heyman just goes on a spiel for a few minutes and says how Adam Pearce's decision to make the Universal Championship match at WrestleMania between Roman Reigns and Edge a triple threat, also involving Daniel Bryan, is one of the worst executive decisions in history. And that kind of sets the stage for the interaction between Heyman and Adam Pearce, because even, Adam Pearce was even a guest on the show at the very end here. So it kind of sets the stage for that encounter at the end. Kayla Braxton runs down all the newly announced WrestleMania matches, including Seth Rollins and Cesaro, Big E and Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship, and Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, in addition to the newly announced triple threat for the Universal Championship. Speaking of Kevin Owens, he's one of the first people added on here to the show, or the first guest welcome onto the show. And he says that he and Zayn are more so, less friends and more brothers. Because you can't really choose who your family is and stuff like that. That's kind of his definition of what family is. And not in like a... He kind of meant it in more of like a matter-of-fact way, in the sense that I would classify ourselves more as brothers because I had to travel with this guy all the time. Like, we were the two best on the indie circuit when we were there, so people would always fly us out to these shows together to face each other. And obviously they bonded from there, but he doesn't really get into that here. Paul Heyman kind of butts in, and he tries to cut off Owens, and Owens isn't having any of his shit. He tries to say, but you always thought Sami Zayn was a prick, and he's always been a prick, blah, 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 because he tried to bury the two of them. He tried to put more heat on Sami by having Owens talk shit about him or something. He kind of put words in Owens' mouth a few weeks ago in regards to Sami Zayn, saying how I guess Sami wanted them to team on Raw when Heyman was running Raw, and Owens said no because I think he's a prick. Or maybe I think Heyman wanted to make him a tag team or whatever, and Owens said no. I think that's what he said here in Talking Smack a few weeks ago. So anyway, Owens even brought up how Sami Zayn has blamed Heyman at times for whatever reason, and he's always blamed other people. But come WrestleMania, he's going to beat some sense into him, and after doing so, he hopes to get the old Sami Zayn back. And by that, I don't know what he really means, whether it be pre-conspiracy or like babyface Sami. Is that what we're talking about here? Because if so, sign me the fuck up. The conspiracy stuff has been cool, but I still long for like the underdog Sami Zayn that we haven't really gotten on the main roster a whole bunch. He was a babyface for like his first year and a half on Raw and SmackDown. And he did some great work in that time with Samoa Joe and Sami Zayn and some other people. And he's been very good as a heel, but he's been heel now for almost 4 years, which is fucking wild. So we need to get that old Sami Zayn back at some point. Maybe have Owens and Zayn as babyface tag team partners, which I think would be fucking great, honestly. Maybe they can team up after WrestleMania and attack Logan Paul, and that's like Sami Zayn's face turn. That's what I would like to say. Because they mentioned Logan Paul being on SmackDown next week, and Owens says he doesn't really care. But he says that people that have followed their careers are very excited to see them face off at WrestleMania, whether it be friends or family or fans. Everyone is excited to see them finally go one-on-one on the grandest stage in them all. Paul Heyman says that he knows, not thinks, but knows Roman Reigns will be walking out of WrestleMania still the Universal Champion, because Owens asked him about that too. And Owens said, okay, and that's not a prediction, that's a spoiler, and he takes his line. And then he says, what's that pay-per-view after WrestleMania? Not always directly after Mania, but like in that ballpark. And Heyman says, Money in the Bank? And Owens says, exactly. And then he just kind of walks off teasing that he could win Money in the Bank and then go back after the Universal Championship. Now, I don't really want to see Owens and Reigns again anytime soon, but it is an idea. It is something to keep in mind. Anyway, The next guest is Bianca Belair, who talks about getting revenge on Sasha Banks on SmackDown for what Sasha did to her at Fastlane. Sasha got her comeuppance in a way on SmackDown this week when Bianca knocked her on her ass at ringside. And then Sasha kind of got her, revenge as well by getting at Bianca afterward by laying her out with a backstabber. So it's been back and forth. Tensions are rising within the women's division on SmackDown, which has been great. Bianca knows, and she kind of addresses that attack from Sasha. She knows that she needs to watch her back with Sasha Banks. And that, people kind of forget that she's always had this edge to her, and she hasn't really shown it off recently. But she's had her edge from NXT, and she's going to bring that back as the EST of WWE. She's going to bring back that aggression, that intensity that we haven't really seen from her since she turned face about a year or two ago. So she's bringing that back when it comes to this match with Sasha Banks at WrestleMania. And Kayla asks her, does it bother you to be called a rookie by Sasha? And Bianca said, of course it bothers me when Sasha calls me a rookie, or that, I'm going to be better, or I have potential, or I'll be a future champion. No. The future is now. And the future is the present. And the present is that I'm going to be the SmackDown Women's Champion come WrestleMania. And then Heyman kind of hypes her up and says, listen, you have to give up on the desire to be friends with anyone in this industry, and that includes Sasha Banks. And I feel like Bianca's already well past that point, but it is worth reiterating anyway. And he even says, listen, I want you to come back on the show after WrestleMania as the SmackDown Women's Champion, really motivating her to go all the way and take that title at WrestleMania. So I thought that interaction was great too. Heyman, after welcoming on Adam Pearce here as the final guest on the show, he says that he made an ass out of himself by making that triple threat match official for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. He runs down the rules of a triple threat by saying that Roman can lose the championship without being pinned, Edge can pin Bryan can pin Edge, and Roman does not have to be involved in the ending equation for that match. And now, come WrestleMania, he has to play defense, and Edge was already a tough opposition. He was already a tough opponent because as a former multi-time world champion, he's done it all in WWE, and he was not going to be just slim pickings for Roman Reigns. Like, it was still going to be tough. And Heyman even said that Edge and Bryan in a handicap match would be just a slam dunk squash, essentially, for Roman Reigns. But when it's Edge and Bryan against each other, and Roman has to play defense and retain his title, but not get pinned, that's gonna be tough for him. And Heyman even goes so far as to say that the WWE Universe is not getting what they paid for. They paid to see. I guess the people paying a ticket, because we haven't really paid to buy it and watch it yet. But anyway, he said that the main event of WrestleMania should be the best in the business and a one-on-one match. The best being Roman Reigns. And it's not a one-on-one match. It's a triple threat. And usually I would prefer a singles match in the main event of Mania, and I kind of do in this case. But adding in Bryan makes sense. It's going to make the match better. And this story has been great so far, so I can't really complain. But yeah, he says that it should be a one-on-one match and that he's screwing the fans out of what they paid for, blah, 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 blah. And Adam Pearce says, listen, Paul, I never really saw it that way until you said that. And then Heyman goes, so that means you'll reconsider making this a triple threat at Mania? And Adam Pearce says, absolutely the hell not. I am not changing it. Too bad. He kind of laughs it off and leaves the set. Kind of walks off, which was great. And then Heyman's all pissed, and he was like, he kind of goes on a couple minute tirade as well. Like a 5-minute tirade about how he's going to be the one, Roman Reigns will be the one to put both Edge and Daniel Bryan back into retirement. And he kind of goes off about that, kind of elaborates on that for a little while. But I thought this was a great episode. Adam Pearce was great there at the end. I enjoyed the interaction, the banter between him and Paul Heyman. The Bianca stuff was also really good, one of her better appearances here on the show, and she's had a couple of good ones, but this one I thought she was kind of dialed in and focused, and she was great. And then even Kevin Owens. Anything with Kevin Owens and Paul Heyman is bound to be money, and this was no exception. So, really, really good episode of Talking Smack this week. Check it out right now on the WWE Network and on Peacock for March 27th, 2021. Be sure to like this video and drop a comment in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and share the video. All the support is greatly appreciated. And as I said in my SmackDown audio review, I'm hoping to have this Talking Smack and SmackDown reviews, these videos, up on time next Saturday. This past week was super busy. The entire month of March has been busy, but specifically this past week, and that's why I wasn't really able to watch these shows and review them until today. So hopefully we're back on schedule next Saturday. WrestleMania weekend and WrestleMania week in general is going to be fucking nuts. So I'm not really sure how much I'll be able to cover here on the channel. I will have a video up every single day. But in terms of like when stuff goes up, I have no idea. So just please bear with me during this not tumultuous time, but it's very, very busy. I still have yet to watch the fucking Broken Skull sessions. That's how backed up I am. So hopefully I will today or tomorrow, and that video will be up imminently. But have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.